menstruation, sexuality, teenage pregnancy, it is difficult to talk to our children and adolescents about sexuality and sex. But we have to admit that it is not easy to talk about sex with anyone. But not talking about it at all will give impact to our young generations later on. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all. So today we are going to discuss about students' perception on teenage pregnancy and sexuality in relation with family communication. Without further ado, let's meet our team. The first one is me, Fazlina. The second one is Cik Mara Idayu. The third one is Nur Mahani. And the last one is Tengku Nurul Aqilah. So today, we're going to discuss on the introduction, the literature review, the methodology, the results, as well as the discussion regarding this issue. Firstly, let's go to the introduction. Let's have a look at the background of the study. Sexual problems have become one of the major issues in Malaysia experienced by the young people. For example, the increasing numbers of teenagers who get pregnant before marriage has seen to be one of the social problems in the society. Teenage pregnancy is also related to baby dumping and abandon of babies. Based on statistics, there are about 100 cases of abandoned babies every year in Malaysia. So, let's go to the next one, problem statement. Based on Malaysian statistics by the Ministry of Health, teen pregnancy statistics, the cases of teenage pregnancy continue to rise, and sexual problems among youngsters are becoming serious. It was reported that the youngest age of the teenagers having sexual intercourse is at 9 to 10 years old. This is due to lack of information on sexual health and reproductive system. Family structures and parents have responsibilities and influences on youngsters' sexual behavior. So, let's have a look at the research questions. Number 1, what are teenagers' perceptions on the issue of teenage pregnancy, sexuality, and family communication regarding sexuality? Number 2, are teenagers' perceptions of the issue of the teenage pregnancy and sexuality related to family communication? So the objectives of the study are, number 1 is to investigate teenagers' perception of the issue of teenage pregnancy and family communication regarding sexuality. Number 2 is to investigate whether teenagers' perception of the issue of teenage pregnancy and sexuality are related to family communication. So, what are the significance of the study? The first one, it gives new insight about teenagers' perceptions towards this issue. Number 2, it will increase awareness among teenagers regarding sexuality issues. Number 3, teenagers' voices are very important for the policymakers for the implementation of new policies to tackle sexual problems as well as to improve the current content of our education syllabus. What about the Islamic perspective? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولا تقربوا الزنا إنه كان فاحشة وساء سبيلا. Do not go near adultery. It is truly a shameful deed and an evil way. In Islam, unwed sex is absolutely forbidden, and the person who commits the sin of zina should be punished accordingly. And according to Dr. Abdullah Nasir Alwan, there are 4 main stages to implement sexuality education among children. The first one is tamyiz stage, which is between 7 to 9 years old. The children should be given education in terms of social boundaries and visual limitations, such as to avoid bathing together with siblings of different genders. The second one is muraqahah stage, from 10 to 13 years. It is a phase of transition for some of them haven't reached puberty, and they should be taught of the existence of lust and how to handle it. The third one is bulugh stage, from 14 to 16 years old. They should be given knowledge of the sexual intercourse that occur and can cause pregnancy among women. And the last one is adolescent stage. That is important to give a perfect education who begin to tend to have a life partner, so it is worth remembering that sex can only take place after marriage.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Maria Idayu. Will continue to present about literature review. I would like to discuss about adolescent pregnancy, knowledge on sexuality, pregnancy prevention, and family communication. To begin, the terms of adolescent can be best defined as a period transition from the dependence of childhood to adulthood independence. Besides, adolescent is the phase of life stretching between childhood and adulthood, encompasses element of biological growth and major social role transition. Early puberty has accelerated the onset of adolescence in nearly all populations. During the period of transition, adolescents could get involved in social problems related to sex, since most of them would have reached the age of puberty. Adolescents have been defined in more details in psychological studies. For example, from Jean Piaget, a Swiss scientist that proposed 4 major periods or stages of cognitive development to explain the transition period from childhood to adolescence. In fact, the stages cannot be skipped and children have to go through until they reach the final stage of cognitive development, called that formal operation. Furthermore, Piaget stated the formal operation thinkers now have the ability to solve problems using many possibilities and solutions. Adolescent pregnancy is defined as any pregnancy occurring in an adolescent girl aged 24 or younger. Adolescent pregnancy is an essential social and health issue in Malaysia. Local online newspapers have published substantial articles on this phenomenon. However, some researchers argue that the phenomenon should be seen as a whole, not merely putting the responsibility to the adolescent girl who is pregnant. Besides, the result of the study, through interviews by several researchers, found that 10 young women aged between 19 to 20 years who had experienced unwed pregnancies during adolescence, and most of them not finished in high school because they were getting married. This is some published from local media and online newspapers reviewed by Refina Siong and N.K. Tarshini 2020. IsmaWeb.net 2020 reported 150 cases a day, more than 51,000 cases of illegitimate children are born every year as registered by JPM. According to Berita Harian 2018, statistics recorded by the Welfare Department Society shows that the state Sabah, Sarawak, Selangor, Johor and Pahang record the high number of cases unwed pregnancies compared to the other states. Besides, Harian Metro 2018 indicates that Malaysia occupies rank 4th out of 10 countries who have a case of unwed pregnancy, the highest in particular involving adolescents. Very sad as Sina Harian 2018 case statistics disposal of infants issued by PDRM point out that total of 906 cases were recorded throughout 10 years ago. Adolescents lack sexual knowledge but have a more liberal attitude towards sexuality, more likely to clarify their doubt with their peers, and their primary source for gathering information was the internet as the most reliable source. What is the meaning of sexuality? According to WHO 2006, sexuality is a central aspect of being human that includes sex, gender identities and roles, sexual orientation, eroticism, pleasure, intimacy, reproduction, as well as experience and expressed in thought, fantasy, desires, beliefs, attitudes, values, behaviors, practices, roles, and relationship. According to Awaluddin, Ahmad, Saleh, Aris, and Qasim 2015, sexual activity is associated with pornographic viewing, masturbation, low level of religiosity, antisocial behavior, history of abuse such as smoking, alcohol, drug, and risky behavior. Similar finding between Norden and Vasuviden indicate that the reason for young teenagers getting involved in several sexual problems, since they may not think about the sequences of their action, such as sexual intercourse and unwed pregnancies. The effect of that, Wong 2012 said in Malaysia, the social stigma attached to premarital sex may be very strong among our teenagers, and this unfortunately contribute to teenagers abandoning or even killing their illegitimate newborns, since they fear the punishment for the offense of zina. This happened because of them have low-level religiosity, also seems to have a great influence on social practice concerning sexuality. The high rate of teenage pregnancy may be due to the lack of understanding about pregnancy prevention. According to the several research, example, the adolescent sexuality survey, 90% or 46 cases are schoolgirls. Students admit not taking contraceptive measure when they have sexual intercourse. Same as the other survey, 70% of male school students take nothing contraceptive before they have sexual intercourse. And the similar research found that more than 70% of daughters are pregnant did not use contraceptive methods during sexual intercourse. That's why the need for educational intervention to provide sufficient information about pregnancy prevention to adolescents. Pregnancy prevention programs have proven effective in helping young teens become more responsible in sexual activity, delay the onset of sexual intercourse, reduce the incidence of unplanned pregnancies, and hopefully increase effective use contraceptives. Ironically, National Population and Family Development Board on their research revealed an alarming result whereby 80% of Malaysian adolescents have been exposed to pornographic material such as magazines and videos. Therefore, they recommended the teenagers' pregnancy prevention programs should include message about abstinence to encourage them to think more intelligently before engaging in any unsafe sexual activities. In Malaysia, sex education is not taught formally in school as yet. This is because the family, especially parents, are also one of the common source of information. Based on the finding of a cross-sectional survey on the risks and protective factors of premarital sexual behavior among rural women, adolescents in Peninsular Malaysia, sexual attitude and behaviors among adolescents are learned from their parents, friends, school, and community. A study conducted by a group of researchers from UKM using a survey study of 50 respondents from 2 juvenile shelters in Malaysia showed that family communication was found to be more effective in curbing this social disease if education starts early at home. Family communication may also contribute to curb teenage out-of-wedlock pregnancy as well as prevent it from worsening into a chronic social issues. For example, study conducted by Omar, Mustafa and Norden 2015 show that open communication and close parents and adolescent relationship will reduce children's delinquency behavior, and the Islamic approach in the family communication process could enhance relationship among family members. As a conclusion, sexuality is related to puberty in which teenagers normally undergo physical, hormonal, emotional, and psychological changes. Knowledge on sexuality contributes to teenagers' behavior regarding pregnancy. High knowledge will help teenagers to make healthy decisions regarding sexual behavior. And family communication is also essential in educating teenagers regarding the issue of sexuality. As presented in this chapter, the 3 important concepts that the researcher wishes to study are teenage pregnancy, sexuality, and family communication. That's all from me. Thank you.
Research methodology. Okay, in this topic, we are going to focus on the research design, sampling background, research instrument, validity and reliability, content validity, data collection, and data analysis. Okay, we move on. Okay, the first slide is talking about the research design. Okay, basically what research design tells us is the focus on our aims of this study and how the study will be conducted. Okay, basically from what you can see, there are 3 subtopics in the research design, which are the objective, design, and survey. Okay, regarding the objective, our main objective is to investigate the youth perception regarding the sexual issue in Malaysia. And the design is basically that we use is the quantitative survey design, which administer on the online platform through the Microsoft form. And the survey that we use, the technique that we use in the survey is the Likert scale, question on a 5-point scale. Rating is used, which means 1 represents strongly disagree, to 5 represent strongly agree. Okay, and then we move on to the sampling background. The sampling background actually discuss about the criteria about the characteristic of the participant and the respondent. Okay, the research was conducted among the undergraduate and diploma student who currently learning in one of the higher level institution in Pahang and Johor Bahru. In total, there are 75 students were participated in the study, and they are ranged between 21 to 23 years old, which represent the late adolescent who are still finishing their bachelor degree, and some of them are starting their course very soon. All of the students are coming from variety background and socioeconomic status. What can we say about the socioeconomic status? Which means that each of them, their family have different income and have different education level. This study utilized the cluster sampling, whereby the respondent is within the range of age for adolescent, late adolescent, attending government university, and all of them are Muslim students. Basically, why we use the cluster sampling? Because the whole population of the adolescent is being divided geographically, and the individual in the cluster is picked randomly, and that's the reason why we say it is the cluster sampling. The main difference from the whole population are their family socioeconomic status and their living arrangement, which are whether they are living in the rural area, urban, or suburbs. Students from this institution were not divided by achievement or disciplinary issue, and this is not the case whereby in the previous high school, the students are normally being divided through their academic achievement and normally also divided through their disciplinary issue. But in the higher level institution, students are not divided at all, either by their academic achievement or by their disciplinary issue. The aim of this research is to identify whether the family communication would influence the student perception on sexuality and teenage pregnancy. Okay, we move on to the research instrument. In this subtopic, we are going to discuss the item and the question that have been used in our survey. This research utilized closed-ended question, which divided into 4 sections. The section 1 explaining about the demographic information of the participant. Section 2 explaining about the perception of students regarding the teenage pregnancy. And section 3 explaining about the perception of students regarding their sexuality. And section 4 explaining about the background of the family of the participant. It's either they are living with the biological parents, non-biological parents, or either they are living with the single parent, single mother or single father, or none of them. Okay, and this section is being categorized as family communication. Section 1, demographic information, consists of 4 items, which were age, gender, the class, the form, living arrangement, and family background. Okay, and section 2, discussing about the perception of the student regarding the teenage pregnancy, which consists of 8 items on the issue of teenage pregnancy and analyzing the perception of students on the idea of pregnancy at very young age, which range from 8 to 40 points. On section 3, discussing about the perception of students regarding their sexuality, which consists of 13 items, which will portray the perception of students towards sexuality in their life. This section consists of 13 items, which range from 13 to 65 points, and the score were divided into 3 categories, which mean liberal, moderate, and conservative. And the last section is family communication, which consists of 10 items about parents' involvement or parent participation in educating the sex education among students and range from 10 to 15 points. Okay, we move on to the next slide. Okay, as you can see in this slide, we have been showing you a table which indicating the overall score and what kind of category it will be categorized. Okay, as you can see from the first table, the total score for teenager perception on teenage pregnancy, when the score is 8 to 18, it will be categorized as liberal perception. When the score is 19 to 29, it will be categorized as moderate perception. And when the score is 30 to 40, which means the quite higher score, it will be categorized as conservative perception. Okay, we move on to the perception of the student regarding the teenagers regarding the sexuality. The overall score from 10 to 23 will be categorized as liberal perception. When the score is 24 to 37, it will be categorized as moderate perception. When the score is 38 to 50, it will be categorized as conservative perceptions. Okay, we move on to the next slide. The last one, the total score for teenager perception on family communication, When the score is 10 to 23, it will be categorized as liberal perception. When the score is 24 to 27, it will be categorized as moderate perception. And when the score is 38 to 50, it will be categorized as conservative perception. Alright, so based on this score, the perception of student will be categorized in three main categories, which is liberal, moderate, and conservative. Okay, we move on to the next slide, which is discussing about the validity and reliability. And before that, we have to understand what's the meaning by validity. According to Tahadus in 2016, validity is determined by how well the data collected cover the area of investigation and measure and what it is intended to be measured. Okay, and how we ensure the validity in the study is the question that we ask in the survey was specifically only discussed on the issue of sexuality and teenage pregnancy. And how to ensure validity in the study. The questionnaire were adopted from established questionnaire. In this case, we adopt the questionnaire. Most of them we adopt from this study from the previous writer. In this case, that person is Farah Nabila binti Muhammad Anwar from University Utara Malaysia. And how about the reliability? And to ensure the reliability of the study, we measure the consistency of the estimated score from the items. The coefficient alpha was introduced to measure the reliability of the survey, which used Likert scale before it's being administered in the real research. So means that during the pilot test, we have used the coefficient alpha in order to measure the consistency of the item in the survey. Alright, we move on to the content, the validity in the study. So how we make sure this study is valid and valid to be administered. Okay, before that we have to know that what is content validity. Okay, according to the same writer, according to Tahadus 2016, the content validity is the degree to which item in an instrument reflect the content universe to which the instrument will be generalized. So that means how we can use the result from this small population to represent the other populations. Okay. In the same time, to make sure the content validity in the study, it involves evaluation of a survey instrument to make sure it includes all the items that are important and crucial and eliminating any undesirable item. Okay. In the same time, besides evaluating and eliminating, we also allow this research to be reviewed by the expert. Okay. In this case, this survey previously has been reviewed by Muhammad Amir, a counsellor who actively monitoring the attitude of the development of the student, and this survey also being approved by Associate Professor of University Islam Antarabangsa, Dr. Siti Rafiah Abdul Hamid. In the same time, this survey also has been reviewed by a few experts. In this case, it has been reviewed by the senior lecturer from the higher level of education. The comment were to shorten the question and to consider the capability of the student in understanding the English language. Okay. In this case, some of the students who previously have learned in the boarding school, who have went to MRSM, they are more better in understanding question in English form. Okay. However, the other students who are not enrolling in the MRSM, who are not enrolling in sekolah berasrama penuh, and who are not enrolling in any boarding school, they are more better in understanding question in Malay language. So in this case, after a few consideration, we have decided to administer the survey in the English language. Besides that, this question in the survey also has been reviewed so that this question could be understood by the participant. So in this case, the pilot test conducted has identified any question which could cause ambiguity to the participant. What is meaning by ambiguity is that probably a question can be understood by a same participant in different angle. So we try as much that we can so that that kind of question does not contribute to any ambiguous understanding to the participant. Okay. Regarding the pilot test, we have administered the survey to the pilot group before we administer it in the real group. Okay, the pilot test was conducted to another student from another institution through Microsoft Form as well. Due to the pandemic COVID-19, we are unable to meet face to face with the student, so we decided to administer this survey through the online platform, which is Microsoft Form. As a result, the survey was administered in English as they have problem understanding abstract question in Malay language since they are learn science and mathematics in English. Previously, this is what I have been discussed before, which means that some of the students which has been enrolling in the MRSM in sekolah bahasa penuh, they were learning the science and mathematics in English, so they prefer to understand most of the issue, most of the text, most of the context of the question in English rather than Malay language. Alright, we move on to the data collection analysis. The survey was administered after the permission is obtained from the administration of selected high level of institution in Kuantan, Pahang and Johor Bahru. The respondents were given link of survey form in the form of Microsoft Form, which contain the item in which divided into 4 different sections, which have been discussed previously in the previous slide. The further analysis of the data involve the application of statistical package for social science, which is known as SPSS. The SPSS was used to test the hypothesis formulated in this study and concluded whether there is significant correlation between family communication to teenage pregnancy and perception of sexuality. So we are using the SPSS to identify whether there is correlation between the family communication to the perception of student regarding of the teenage pregnancy and the sexuality. Okay. Besides using the SPSS, we are also coming with the descriptive statistics such as mean, median, standard deviation, were calculated to obtain general description of the data, such as whether the data is clustered to the means or far away from the value of the mean. Okay. In this case, for example, standard deviation is the measure of how well the data that we collected is close to the means. If the standard deviation is very high, that means the data collected is far from the mean. If the standard deviation is very low, that means that the data collected is very close to the mean. Okay. Alright. Next one, we are focusing on the data analysis. Okay. Just now we implement the SPSS. So basically, the test that we use in the SPSS is the Pearson correlation analysis. Okay. The Pearson correlation analysis is basically to indicate the strength of the relationship by calculating the R value. And in this test, the positive indicate the perfect positive relationship and negative indicate the negative correlation between the dependent and independent variable. Okay. In this study, the dependent variable is the student perception on teenage pregnancy and sexuality, while the independent variable is the family communication. Right. Based on the result from the Pearson correlation analysis, then only we can conclude whether there is any significant correlation between the family communication to the perception of student regarding the teenage pregnancy and the perception of student regarding the sexuality. And that's all from me, Mahani binti Muhammad. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Tengku Nurul Aqilah binti Tengku Abdul Rahman. I will continue to the results. For this research, SPSS was used for data management and analysis in descriptive and correlation. Let's go to the result. Number of samples. There is 75 samples, but one outlier. So, there's 74 samples analyzed in this study. Let's go to their demographic information. As shown above, most participants were female, with 55 students, then male only 19 students. The age range is between 19 until 24, but most of them in their 21 and 22. Their current academic year shown that first, second, third and fourth year has their own candidate. The place they live shown that many of them from mid-urban area followed by urban area and rural areas. Most of them living with their biological parents, 7 of them living with single parents with their mother, and a participant with other categories. There are 3 sections of questionnaire. They must choose between number 1 to 5. Number 1 for strongly disagree, number 2 disagree, number 3 uncertain, number 4 agree, number 5 strongly agree. This is total score for students' perception of sexuality, most of them in moderate with 91.9%. From the finding, most of the sample in moderate category towards perception of sexuality, while in small group in liberal category, while only 1 sample in conservative category. This is total score for student perception of teenage pregnancy, most of them in moderate categories. Most of the students in moderate regarding perception of teenage pregnancy, and the rest of them conservative categories, while there is none of them in liberal categories. Total score for students' family communication, most of them in moderate category. From the findings, most of samples in moderate categories in family communication, 1 sample in liberal category, and the rest in conservative category. Now let's go to the sexuality perception and family communication. Pearson correlation show that the value of relation is negative 0.173. The negative correlation, but not strongly, shows that the more open the communication between parents and children, the more liberal the children's perception of sexuality. Simple scatter of relation between sexuality perception by family communication is shown above. Another relation between teenage pregnancy and family communication. Pearson correlation shown that the relation between teenage pregnancy and family communication value is negative 0.22. The correlation showed that there is no significant relation between perception of teenage pregnancy and family communication. Simple scatter of teenage pregnancy perception by family communication is shown above. Okay, let's go to the discussion. Let's take a look to the finding from other studies. By Farah Nabila, 2018, the teenager with a conservative inclined perception of teenage pregnancy are less likely to get involved in any sexual activity since they could be more informed about the negative consequence of having sex at a very young age. The study by Ahmadian Mariam, Hanina Hamsan, Haslinda Abdullah, Asnal Kulhadi, Abu Samah, and Amna Nur, 2014. Better family communication may create positive attitude towards sexual and reproductive health. Students' perception towards sexuality from the findings. Most of the students are moderate category, but the student with liberal attitude most likely to involve in sexual activity than the other who have conservative attitude. It is important that they have information about the consequence in sexuality matter, but must be in less open information and discussion so that they can decide better decision in their sexual activity. Students' perception towards teenage pregnancy. Like perception of sexuality, most of students in moderate category. Their understanding about teenage pregnancy are not too liberal or conservative. They are under control. It is supposed that both boys and girls should understand that they are responsible of sexual behavior and reproductive health. How about the relation sexuality and teenage pregnancy with family communication? The results show weak negative early relationship between family communication and sexuality. It also means more open communication between parent and children, more liberal attitude embedded within them. While there is no relation between family communication and teenage pregnancy, more likely the student get information from other resources like peers, magazine, internet, etc. Then, other than that, majority of them did not have open discussion about topic of sexuality with their parents, or they may given less open sex education due to religion, customs, and family beliefs. Therefore, good and simple communication with parents will help children to make better decisions regarding sexuality and teenage pregnancy. For the conclusion, this study aims to give an opportunity for teenagers to voice out their opinion and to investigate their perception regarding sexuality matter. Actually, their voice offers a guideline to measure the level of understanding regarding the issue of teenage pregnancy and knowledge of sexuality. It will provide information to other researchers to understand their perception and make more in-depth studies. Assalamualaikum.
And these are the references. Thank you. Bye.